To say Bleach evolved and changed over the course of its runtime would be a massive understatement. From arc to arc, from 2001 to 2021, Bleach undergoes massive changes to its designs and overall style of the series, from Kubo's earliest work, Zombie Powder, all the way to Burn the Witch. I won't be spoiling anything in this video, especially in regards to the 1000-Year Blood War arc. I will be showing some panels from the arc, but I won't be giving any context for said panels, so you won't have to worry about spoilers. To begin with, the character facial constructions in the Soul Society arc and the arc that led up to that point are blocky, angular, sharp, you get what I mean. The characters have these sharp edges to their faces and are overall more cartoony, simpler expressions and simpler facial features. In the arcs that follow, these faces become rounder, more defined, and have a lot more detail, mirroring the series' tonal shift to a more dark and brutal aesthetic, especially in the Fullbring and the 1000-Year Blood War arc. The faces become more detailed, the noses get more defined, areas around the eyes gain more detail, and shading gets utilized more. For the characters who have more distinguishing features like Yamamoto and Kenpachi, these details are even more honed and elevated. As a result, you can tell what kind of a person the character is just by looking at their face. It also became easier for Kubo to give characters more clear, subtle, and emotional expressions. With simple faces, it's harder to achieve the same effect because each line adds too much or too little, making it hard to balance and harder to necessarily hit home the emotions the author wants the characters to convey. Anatomically, the characters of Bleach also change, especially the male characters. In the earlier chapters, Kubo follows the human body's anatomy pretty accurately. Later on, he adds his own flair to it, resulting in limbs becoming longer and giving some characters even cooler frames that make them stand out. This change in anatomy actually shows how much Kubo knows about the human body and displays his artistic talents directly, in order to alter something like this whilst making it look cool and not border the uncanny valley is a difficult task. This kind of change actually elevated Kubo's art style in my opinion, and also gave it more distinguishing features to let it stand out from the crowd. Kubo I found to be one of the very few artists who utilizes uniforms to their fullest potential. The captains, the Quincy, the Espada, these characters were the same general uniform, but smaller details and additions based around the character's personality makes them stand out as they were wearing totally different things, from the faces being completely different from each other to unique additions on the uniforms like Kenpachi. His uniform is torn, signifying his boots on the ground frontal lines approach to combat. Of course, the crazy hair also adding a unique layer to his general outline. Another good example is Shinsui, wearing this pink Japanese kimono around his captain's uniform, showing that he is a laid-back and chill, calm man, in contrast to Mayuri, whose face is literally a carnival, which directly translates into his personality. The transformations of these characters, aka the Bankai, mirrored their respective personalities and altered their designs to an even greater level. It achieves everything a transformation should do. Each Bankai is different from each other, visually and in terms of ability. For example, Byakuya's Zenbon Sakura turning into petals that rip apart opponents, and Toshiro's Daiguren Hyorin-maru, giving him this dragon aesthetic made of ice. Ichigo's design throughout the course of Bleach does not change much, generally stays the same, with his black Shihakusho getting little detail over the course of the series. Kubo has this keen eye for fashion and always makes his characters have style even when not wearing these bombastic and fantasy-esque outfits. None of them necessarily change their outfits drastically throughout the course of the series, but they change in subtle and small ways to the point where it gives you this idea of characters progressing along with their outfits and showing the progression of time. Very different from most shonen manga in which the main character wears the same thing every fucking chapter and doesn't change at all. Looking at you, Gon, who wore the same fucking green outfit for 90% of the series. Bleach's main visual aesthetic was the contrast between black and white, which of course directly mirrors the series' themes and characters. Fun fact, Kubo actually began looking for a title that grasped the bigger picture. Shinigami are associated with the color black, but it would have been boring to use black. White, on the other hand, could suggest black as a complementary color, so Tite Kubo chose Bleach to invoke the impression of the color white. By the way, I did just copy and paste this from Wikipedia. Anyway, the main color of Shinigami being black and the antagonists, Quincy and Espadas, being white, directly mirrors this mindset of Kubo and directly mirrors the whole series aesthetic. In the first section of Bleach, Kubo uses cross-hatching as a shading, but it never really took a prominent part in the art. Up until the Fullbring arc, the shading was the same and wasn't necessarily front and center. But in this arc, we see shading take a more prominent role, from deep dark comic book-esque shading to cross-hatching, especially on the characters' faces, most notably under the chin and under the eyebrows. Kubo uses shading in a remarkable way, using it to further elaborate on characters' expressions and using deep dark shading in very emotional moments, signifying that whenever it does make an appearance, it's impactful and it raises the whole panel above the rest and makes it special. In the new Hell chapter, Bleach's art is, structurally at least, somewhat the same, in addition to more backgrounds and simpler character drawings, somewhat reminiscent of Burn the Witch art style. I personally like the 1000 Year Blood War art style more. I believe it's peak demonstration of Kubo's artistic talent. That isn't to say I don't like the new art style, the change is not that drastic, but I really like that dark and gritty tone that was really well captured in the art for the 1000 Year Blood War arc. Most I can say is the cross-hatching, shading, and little bits of detail have been removed in the newest chapter, but that's really nothing to complain about. When people criticize Bleach's art, they always bring up the same argument, backgrounds being less and less common. It always makes my head spin. To begin with, yes, backgrounds throughout the series became less and less common, especially in the final arc, but this isn't to say it's noticeable. When I was first reading Bleach and now when I had to look back on it for this video, I can say that it's not a big deal at all. There are numerous panels when backgrounds are clearly drawn. On each page there are panels with backgrounds. In the former final arc of Bleach, the action scenes are more bombastic, explosive, and overall more energetic than ever, so adding more backgrounds would only clutter the screen. Sometimes using less is more, especially when it's used well. In fight scenes, in plot revelations, and fight progression, Kubo uses white space to lock your focus on a certain point of the panel. It helps drive home what Kubo wants to convey, even without giving Kubo the benefit of the doubt, like having deadlines, poor health, and less than stable situation with the people at Shonen Jump. Kubo was still able to turn out clean and slick drawings. I'd argue Bleach has one of the best, if not the best, art ever seen in Shonen Jump. With the anime coming back, I really hope Studio Pierrot can animate and do Bleach justice. It's been so long and it would be a shame for Bleach to have less than subpar animation. I have faith, but I won't get my hopes up too much, since this is Studio Pierrot after all. But nonetheless, I'm positive they can do a solid job. If they can pull off the same animation quality as the Turn Back the Pendulum arc, I'll be happy. But we just have to wait. Recently it was announced that the storyboarding for the anime done by Kubo was actually finished, which implies that the production is still in its early stages. But not too long ago it was confirmed that Bleach will be making its appearance in Jump Festa 18th of December. Mark your calendars, boys, because that will be hype. Most of us are hoping for the trailer, but I'll be happy with anything at this point. Bleach's comeback is one of the best underdog stories of all time. From the butting of heads between Kubo and the higher-ups of Shonen Jump, to Kubo throwing chapters out whenever he feels like a true baller. Bleach's anime came to an end in 2012 with the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. Then Naruto came to an end in 2017, and One Piece is still going strong. Bleach ended first, but ironically could easily be the last man standing, especially with Bleach manga actually coming back. And you can bet your ass Bleach Hell arc will receive an anime sooner or later. A shorter video, but at least I was able to pump this out a lot sooner. I hope you enjoyed. Like, sub, bell, don't be cringe, and see ya!